Hello, House Hero Clan and Wham Fam. Welcome to Tuesday Night Live here with the House Heroes. Thank you for joining us tonight. Every Tuesday we go live. We have a topic, but tonight we have something special for you. Ryan, you want to announce what we're doing tonight?
Hey, if you bring treats, you got to bring enough for the whole class. So hopefully it's food because I'm hungry. Tonight we are going to go over our first topic and give you the rundown of our summer home buyers guide that we're just dropping. So we're going to be doing these quarterly, and on top of it, we're going to have a complete home buyers guide coming out behind that. That's just in more detail. If you really want to geek out on the home buying process, we're also going to have the guide, the complete guide for home sellers as well. So really excited to bring you this and tee this off. So if you guys are interested in getting this, check out the comment section. Go ahead and message us, and we'll get you the instructions to go ahead and download your own free copy of this guide. And like I said, tonight we'll be going over the very first chapter. So.
Launch night, man. I've been excited. We've been working on our different guides now for about 6 months. And so now tonight we're launching the buyer's guide. I know a lot of you out there are looking for homes or even thinking about it. This is exactly what you need. It's a very easy on the eyes, easy read here. So
unlike us, it's easy on the eyes.
So we're very interactive here. So if you have any questions or anything you need, even just say hi. Please go ahead and comment us. Hit the notification button to see when we go live. And, more importantly, we're more than happy to answer every one of those questions that you have and to get you that guide out so you can read it, the entire 32 pages of it, right? And get yourself educated about the home buying process and why you should buy now. That's a kind of some of the reasons why we've done that. So tell me, Ryan, let's start with this. What's in the news? You know what?
They're starting to roll out more and more information about forbearances. And so this is the latest here. So it just, it's talking about what allows you to be able to defer your payments if you can't make them. So that's a forbearance. If you guys, this is the first time tuning in, we've talked about them a lot. We talked about them before they were popping up on all the different news cycles. We knew they were coming down the pipe. And so as we're getting, further through this, COVID path, they're changing what they're allowing. And they're becoming a lot more flexible on your payment method. So especially if you have Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac as your note holder, if you have one of those two as your note holder, you're going to be able to go ahead and take those missed payments and stick them on the back of the loan. So with no extra interest, no extra penalty. So that's huge. But if you guys can make your payment, we've always stressed, continue to make your payment. We don't really know all of the possible negative ramifications towards your credit. We've been told that they're supposed to mark it paid as agreed, but sometimes in the notes it says forbearance. So you just want to make sure you're protecting yourself. If you can make your payment, make your payment. But if you need to be able to push that payment out, go ahead and contact your servicer and figure out what their guidelines are for forbearance. So tell us a little bit more about these.
So I put this together tonight. It's in the news. Freddie Mac came out and said, hey, we want to kind of cover the gamut here. So anyone that is kind of struggling a little bit or questioning it, please hit the share button and share this with them. It's so important. We're here to help everyone. I know that we're very positive on the housing market, but there are people out there that are struggling, and we want to make sure that they understand some of the guidelines that Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae came out with, because they're actually trying to cover the entire gamut. Whether you're a Freddie or Fannie, they're a note holder for them, or for other note holders, or servicers that are out there. This is some of the things that they've come out with just recently. As Ryan, the very first wave of COVID back in March, they came out with that whole forbearance, and they were kind of, all the banks were trying to figure out what they needed to do. Now there's more concrete information that's come out. So the very first thing is, the deferral payment. Obviously, if you're having issues right now, you call up your servicer, you say, hey, I want to go out there and I don't know what's going on. I got, laid off or I got furloughed, and I want to make sure that, my bills are covered, and I don't know if I have enough from for unemployment check coming in or whatever little monies or less monies I'm receiving from my employer. So the first thing is deferment payment. That's a very good one. It can go up to 6 months, actually even 9 months at this point. They've been talking on some loans. And so you're putting those 9 months that you're not making payments, if it's agreed to by the servicer and your note holder, and you're putting it at the back end of the loan. Ryan, tell us what the dollar today is versus the dollar 30 years from now.
This is the present versus future value of money. And this is why real estate is so amazing. You're leveraging what money you do have to get a bigger purchase. So, that $3,000 a month payment now, hey, that might be hard to make, but $3,000, let's call it 27 years from now, 30 years from now, depending on how far you are into your mortgage, it's just going to be a drop in the bucket. You look at some of these people who bought their homes 30 years ago in 1990 and they bought it for $300,000. Well, it's worth $1.2 million now. Yeah. So if they never paid a dime towards that principal, there's still $900,000 in equity. And so that is the beauty of, future versus present value of money. A dollar today has a lot more purchasing power than a dollar 30 years from now. So being able to delay this without having any penalties, without having any additional interest accrued, that is huge. So if you do need this program, it is amazing. But like he was saying, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are offering it. Other note holders have other terms which may or may not be similar. So you need to call your servicer. That's who, you get your statements from. Just because it says Wells Fargo on it doesn't mean they really are the note holder. So they're the servicer. If you got Mr. Cooper, Nation Star, there's a lot of different, servicers out there, SPS. You need to call them and ask them, who's my note holder and what options do I have for forbearance? Ask those questions, get their paperwork, and then see, does it make sense for you to do that?
Yes. So this is actually the first one, Ryan. Go ahead and flip to the next one. All right. So easy to execute with the whole idea behind this with Freddie and Fannie is that they decided to, hey, let's educate the servicers on how we want to work our programs. And that has been a big, big education. So as we kind of stumble through this back in March and April and May, we're absolutely online and on track to actually help as many people as possible through this hard time, right? And that's what has really been a very, very big plus now going forward in the next half of this year. So absolutely. Easy to execute with the mortgage servicers. Next slide. And that's the
thing is, we're basically looking at this as if, hey, we're on this road, we've been cruising on this highway, but for some reason, somebody threw a speed bump right in the middle of our drive. We're slowing down. We got to get over this speed bump. There might be another speed bump right behind it. It's looking like we need to get through this. But we know once we're through this, it's going to be, cruise control again. We're going to be hitting that fast lane in the highway. So, the government is doing everything they can to try and alleviate this pressure right now. Let's go ahead and put it on the back end and let's get through this trying time. And so, they're trying to, basically pull out the big guns and say, what do we need to do? And the truth is they learned from 2007, 8, and 9 when you had tons of short sales. You had people trying to do loan modifications that couldn't get them. You had people trying to do forbearances, but you had to prove a hardship and the paperwork was so onerous. And your servicers were so impacted with so many other, it was like triage. It's kind of like, you're talking in some of these hard hit areas right now in the hospitals, they have more patients coming in they know what to do with, they have to pick and choose who they can treat. And that's how it was in the housing sector with people that were coming in that were defaulting on their mortgages. Now you don't have to have a hardship. You don't have to go through any, back end system. You just need to say, hey, I've got, a desire to have, access to this deference, and they will go ahead and get you in the program with Fannie Freddie. So that's what's so huge about it and so different. They have learned from the last go round that, we saw this coming. We know we need to deal with it up front and really get ahead of that curve.
Right. So. And if Fannie and Freddie and their programs that they've come out with, and if you just don't qualify or they're not part of that program, your servicer or the note holder, there are 3 other options. There's actually a 4th option here. As a real estate agent, we'll go over at the very end, but there's 3 other options. There's called mortgage reinstatement, there's a repayment plan, and there's a loan modification. So those are still around, and the servicers
good point.
have that at their their
Discretion.
fingertips, right?
Yeah.
Discretion. And because they don't want to foreclose. If we take a look at what's happened in the past, when things went bad, all they did was hit the panic button. The panic button was foreclose, 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 foreclose. And the only other option you had was short sale, right? And you would struggle through both of them. Regardless, it was a hardship. These are hardship as well, but they want to keep you in your home, right? So a mortgage reinstatement, you go out of and you miss some payments. They just don't want to foreclose on you. They want to reinstate you. So they want you to call in, give them a guidelines or even a timeline of when you're thinking you're going back to work on furloughs and being laid off. A lot of these industries are going to come back, right? It's just social distancing and COVID-19. So they want some type of idea of when you're coming back. If it's a letter from your employer saying we're rehiring back or reopening in the next 3 to 6 months, well then they'll accept that. For most, I should say most servicers will accept that. If you say, hey, I'm going to be missing the next 4 months, right? I'm missing the next 4 months of payments. How does that affect me if I want to get back in it? Well, let's get a repayment plan. So how many months you miss, let's go back and possibly let's tack on $200 a month after that until it's repaid. Some of these are interest-free. Some have interest on them as well.
Yep.
But they're having a repayment plan as well. And then, of course, the loan modification. And I know that a lot of people say, okay, how can I go back? And that was kind of the answer back in 2010, 2011.
Yeah, you had HAMP and
right.
all the rest. HAMP and HARP and
right. So after foreclosures and short sales, some of the banks had figured out, well, let's do a loan modification. Let's keep people in there. Unfortunately, it was a mishmash of just junk that was being thrown out there, and it wasn't sticking anywhere. And so now today, after learning that lesson, now they have loan modifications where if you wanted to, you couldn't quite refi out of it because your credit was hurting, they'll modify your loan as long as you can show that you can repay it back. Or again, we have that letter, that reinstate or rehire letter back there, or some type of idea of what's going on. They all understand that this is a unique situation that we haven't run into since loan processing began, right? Loans began. So it's really exciting. The last thing I want to say on this is, of course, if you're out there and you're struggling, the majority of you that are struggling, about 91%, according to Fannie and Freddie, you have equity in the home, enough equity to sell your home and walk away with either nothing or with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. I know that I just saw today the average person, and we put this in our guide. We threw this in our guide. The average home, out there has $177,000 in equity.
And that's the average. That's
the
impressive.
average.
That's
I mean,
really
in Southern
impressive.
California, obviously.
And that's a great point. And, if you're in an industry that doesn't look like it's going to come back, you need to really make those decisions. And the sooner you make those decisions, the better. So it's, are you able to enter, some of their workforce that is, have gainful employment right now? Or does it make sense to downsize? Does it make sense to, sell your home, take that equity and have that buffer? Because you might have the equity, but not enough savings. So if you're in one of those situations, all we can say is just don't bury your head in the sand. You need to be proactive. Whatever course you go down, be proactive. I mean, Troy and I walked into way too many homes where they lost it to foreclosure, and we were there to, list it for the bank. And it was heartbreaking because a lot of people, they did have other options. They just chose the option of doing nothing and letting it happen to them, which was foreclosure. So, definitely make sure you check out what options are available to you. If you don't know where to look, contact us. We'll be able to get you to the proper sites as far as, modification, forbearance, things like that, and some free help out there for you. And then if you need to look at what equity would look like, if you did sell, we can help give you numbers on what a net sales sheet would be, what you would be able to see if you did sell, and does it make sense for you to move and rent or something like that. So,
what's interesting, Ryan, is that as the social media has really taken off, we're able to educate people on masses versus we would be the door knockers when we get an address that would come over and we would door knock the people and nobody would want to answer the door because they're all scared, right? Now you can go on and feel safe at home and now get educated through, lives like this. Or
that's a great point. I mean, I remember with some of the first foreclosures we went to list for the bank. I mean, people fled in the middle of the night. I mean, they were scared. They didn't know what their options were. They were humiliated. And like we walked in and I mean, we looked around like this is happening to the masses. Like you should not be embarrassed about this. You should be open and willing to go get, seek out information. You need to talk to people about it. You really need to be open about it because it helps out there. But I remember that first wave, the first homes we were going into, people literally fled in the middle of the night. They were embarrassed and they were scared and they didn't know what to do, but they had options. If they would have just stuck in the house, by the time we arrived, we could have offered them cash for keys. We could have given them a little bit better terms as far as moving out from the bank. And once, we were into it a few months, let's say a year, the word started to spread socially and people started getting aware of what their rights were. Oh, well, hey, I'll sit in the home a little longer. I'll get cash for keys. I'll have some other exit. I know I've got time. They started doing some of the things like either deed in lieu of foreclosure, loan modifications, short sales. They started trying, and actually fighting, and trying to basically execute those other options they had instead of just losing their home in the middle of the night. And so, that's basically with social media now. The information's out there. You just have to be proactive, like always. So that's a great point.
Let's do some shout outs, Ryan.
Yeah, let's do them.
Let's start off with RJ. Thank you again for tuning in
what's up,
tonight.
RJ?
Yeah, Colleen. Awesome. Thank you again, obviously, for you and everybody else that's tuned in. We have Jason. How do you go about getting a copy of the buyer's guide? Well, absolutely. You're on here. We're going to have our team go out and then send it, probably DM you and send the link to you so you can actually go ahead and get that guide. And that's for everybody else out there.
And actually, if you just go ahead and comment your Facebook username and or tag a friend on the House Heroes site, we'll go ahead and get that over to you.
Yeah. William, how you doing, buddy? Byron, thank you very much for tuning in.
Byron?
Jason, thanks so much, guys. Very appreciate it. William, again, if someone's receiving unemployment, can they be qualified for a home loan? That's no. No. You actually, if you're receiving unemployment, it's not a forever thing. You haven't been receiving it for 2 years. So if I go back and look at some of the guidelines, it's no, you cannot. But get through this and hopefully you'll find a steady job and let's get you in a home, man. Let's put together a plan.
If you are going to be able to be brought back with the same employer, once you have that hire letter back or something like that, reach back out, talk to men in the WHAM squad, and they'll be able to assess your situation and see what loans are available at that point in time.
Dad, thank you very much.
What's
Latoya, hey, appreciate it. We're hopefully closing on your home, your first-time home buyer. You and Nathan out there, I'm so excited. We got loan docs in today, and we're looking to give you the keys this week. So real excited. Maybe we want to film that, and we'll put this on our live. We'll open our live within the next few weeks with you guys getting your keys. So
absolutely
excited about that. John Rouse, how's it going, buddy? Haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, I know. Long time no talk.
Yeah. Elmas. You put Dina down, and then it's Eric Maldonado. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Ryan, you got any over there?
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to say what's up. Stephanie Hawes watching. So we just got her request for repairs approved tonight, and the seller is going to give a credit, do all of the termite work, and a little bit more. So pretty excited about that. Next step, closing table. So
bingo. Very good. I also want to have a shout out to Omar.
Congrats.
Congratulations. You just got into his home on Friday, met him, his wife, his kids, his mom, his dad, and his sister and brother. Yeah, and they were so excited getting their keys.
That's awesome.
We went through a journey. It was probably about 3 or 4 months, and that journey ended into in receiving keys and enjoying that house in Whittier. So I want to say a big shout out to you, and we're definitely keeping you in our minds.
Congrats, Omar. That was a great house.
Yeah, that was absolutely a great house. Tramwin, thank you very much. You get a copy. We'll get you a copy out as well.
All right. So what do we got here? The buyer's guide.
So what I want to do tonight is we'll kind of go through the chapters that we're going to discuss in the future next 3, 4, 5 weeks, as well as I want to go over the very first chapter. And in our guide, the very first chapter is why this housing market is not like 2008. This is one of the big topics that I run into when I'm out there. It's really funny, Ryan, that, when we're talking about housing, you get the biggest extremes that I've ever seen. On one hand, you say people are shaking their head going, my God, there's 20 offers on this house and all the house out there. And on the other hand, people are saying there's unemployment so high and everyone's losing their homes and the market's going to crash. And you see that huge disparity in what people's attitudes towards the housing market.
It's their perception and their reality. I met an appraiser at one of our clients' properties. It's one of our listings. I went out there to meet the appraiser, and just like we always talk about, in our seller's guide and stuff like that, when you're going to sell a property, you want to make sure that as a listing agent, you are meeting the appraiser at the house. So I went out, I met the appraiser, and I had data for him. So I had the other 5 offers on that house that we didn't accept. I had the cover sheet on all of those. I highlighted what they were offering. I had all of the upgrades that were done to that house and a dollar amount. And I also had a breakdown of the most recent comp that was on that street that was basically $2 per square foot off of what we were getting for our home. And with that, they were really pushing hard, like, oh, you've got solar with this house. Yeah, but you were taking over their payments, and their payments were high, and they had just gone into them. So there was really no value there to the solar, because anybody can walk into any house and have that same deal. So I went there and I showed, basically what's going on in the market. Here are our 6 offers. One of them was putting 20% down, so these people have real money. And I went through, the comps and the upgrades. And so I met this appraiser there, and the first thing he said, he just was kind of like, so what do you think about this market? And I'm like, well, and I broke into a lot of the stuff we're getting ready to cover here. And he's like, well, my wife's unemployed, and I really just feel like this is going to crash like 2008. Well, right there, it's that confirmation bias. If things are going rough for you, that's what you want to, you're tending, that's your reality, and that's what you're looking at. And so I talked about what industry his wife was in, whether or not we thought that industry was coming back. And then I just went through everything we see, all the different dynamics that are really pushing housing. And because, Troy and I lived through 2006, 7, and 8, 9, 10, all the way through, obviously, but we were in the heart of that. I mean, we were in the trenches then, just like we're in the trenches now, and we see how different it is. If it was looking like it was going to be 2006, 7, 8, we'd be doing something different. We'd be sitting here talking about, hey, hunker down, grab your cash, and let's figure out a way to find the next property to flip. Let's go ahead and let's be talking about what long-term investments we're going to be buying, when things hit a rock bottom, price point. But we don't see it. They're completely different dynamics, completely different fundamentals. But at the same point, Troy and I go out there and we look at all the negative news and we pick through it. We don't just look at the positive news for our own confirmation bias, because we are very bullish on housing. But I look like, hey, what am I missing here? All these signs look completely different than 2006, 7, 8. What am I missing? And every time somebody throws something out there on why they think real estate's going to crash, I go and I dissect it. And every single reason has the opposite reason in the data that we're seeing that says otherwise. So to me, it's very interesting, but people are absolutely talking about it. And depending on, where their reality is which side of the fence they're sitting on. And that's why we like to really go over the data and the numbers and what they're saying out there in the market. So
go to the next slide, Ryan.
Yeah, let's hit it. Boom.
Okay. So obviously in 2008, we ran into very iffy lending. In fact, it was predatory, according to the U.S. government. And we felt as we walked into people's homes, they were like, how am I in this situation? And I remember on several occasions, I'm sure you did too, is we've asked the clients for their loan docs. And then you start reading their loan docs and you're like, well, you're an executive custodial, executive at a at a high school, I'm saying, well, what do you do? He goes, I'm a janitor.
I'm a janitor making minimum wage.
$125,000 a year. I'm like, well, this is what you signed and you said. And
yeah,
so,
you're making minimum wage, but you just said you made $128,000 a year.
You signed for that. So we're trying to stay away from that. So that was predatory lending. Today, the reason why people even discuss, crashing in markets, it's because of COVID. And COVID equals, the unemployment rate going up. And when they see unemployment rate going up and they're hearing, Starbucks is closing 45 stores and this company is completely shutting down forever and this and that, it just is really dreary news. And then on the other hand, and hit the next slide, Ryan, we're hearing that the stock market's hitting all-time high. So we're just all over the place. So here we put together in very, very well depth of what we feel is the reason why this market is really booming.
Yep. So, number one, foreclosures are near all-time lows. Now, again, 2007-8, they were as well. But the difference was we were putting so many people into these loans Troy was talking about, these predatory loans, that it was just all that it took was one little match to light that pile of kindling on fire. We had clients that were walking in and they wanted to build their real estate empire. They couldn't afford one property's 30-year mortgage, but because they had options like what was called an option arm. Well, what was the option arm? Well, you could either pay the fully amortized rate, which they couldn't afford. You could pay interest only, which they still didn't want to pay, or you could pay negative amortization. So what negative amortization is if you went out and borrowed $500,000 for that home, the first month, let's say interest only payment was going to cost you $4,000 a month. You only paid $2,000 that month. So the next month you owed $502,000 on that home. And it kind of went with the premise that, like we talked about earlier, if you bought a home 30 years ago in 1990 for $300,000 and it's worth $1.2 million today, hey, did you really need to pay down that balance at all? That's the present versus future value of money. Well, everybody was all of a sudden banking on it and they weren't able to chip away at the payment, and they couldn't really even afford the interest only payment. They couldn't afford to keep that house at all because they were falsifying their income. You had these stated income loans. You had these no income, no assets. They didn't have to have a dollar to their name, and they could go out and buy 4 homes. And we saw clients walk in that door and want that 4th home. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like building your real estate empire. Like you're upside down what the rent is every month, but this was their premise. This is what these lenders were selling these loans on. Now, because of Dodd-Frank, you've got to have the ability to repay. So the people that are buying these homes, even if they're VA 100% financing right now, they've got the ability to repay this loan. They're looking at their debt to income. They're looking at their employment. They're looking at their assets. They see that this person has the ability to repay. Same thing with FHA and the bond programs. If it's Cal HFA, something like that. These people have jobs. They've got real money. And if they were to go ahead and lose this home, they're still going to have to go rent somewhere. They're still going to have a cost that's equal or greater roughly to that mortgage. So you're not going to have this panic selling. And so, when we get down to some of these other numbers here, it's really about, how long these people are now in their home. So, number 2 is mortgage rates near all-time lows.
Let's start. Let's go back to number 1.
Hit number 1.
There is 185 foreclosures in all of Southern California. 185. Okay, it is every week we look it up. It just gets lower and lower because anyone who's in trouble is going to be selling their home because they have equity in their home. So that's where we're hitting all-time lows. The number 2 is mortgage rates near all-time lows. Well, what Ryan was discussing was you were paying such a low payment, just a percentage of interest, that the entire mortgage industry was banking on home values keep going up. And how do you do that? You keep giving away your money. We talked about it. You didn't have to qualify for a loan. I'll say this much. Me and Ryan bought a home, brand new built, $1.25 million. $1.25 million. 100% financing.
With no flooring.
No flooring. I mean, think about that. Now today that it's laughed off, there's just no such thing, and hopefully there'll never be any such thing anymore. 1.25 million. So with that being said, the second that a burp happened in the mortgage industry and the real estate industry, such as interest rates went high enough and the risk levels started to roll up and people stopped making payments, then it just, like, as they say, house of cards, it came tumbling down. Right now, mortgage rates are at all-time lows.
Yep.
Guys, all-time lows.
And really, number 2 with mortgage rates at all-time lows, and number 7 down here, the refi boom. What this refi boom has allowed is people who are in their homes to get lower and lower rates. Their payments are so low that they're staying in their homes longer. They don't need to move up, and because they've been in it longer and prices have gone up due to Prop 13, their tax basis stays lower than if they were to move up. And so you've got a lot of people that are in their homes longer, and that are, because of that, they're building roots in the community. Excuse me. So if the market did drop 10%, they're not going to move because they still want to live in that house that they've now created memories in, and they've got roots in that community. So there's so many different dynamics going on here. We're back in 2006, 7, 8. The average, years that somebody was in their house was 3 to 5. Now we're talking 8 to 10 in this current market. And so part of that is lower rates and the fact that we've had a good, strong economy and people have had this equity. So, COVID itself has even brought in its own dynamic. Well, people thought, COVID's going to bring unemployment and people are going to get out of housing. Man, I apologize, but it's done the flip. You've got people now who go, shoot, I'm working from home. I need a place for my office, my home office, because my wife's working from home. I'm working from home. We need separate rooms. We got the kids at home. I need to be able to go lock the doors for a Zoom call now. So you've got people that are going out and getting bigger homes that are renting and are like, hey, we need to go buy something with these features. You've got people that were renting, a lot of millennials and Gen Z you keep hearing about. They were in apartments with these great facilities. Hey, we got the pool, we got the clubhouse, we got the gym. All of that's closed. And they're like, well, hey, if we went and bought a starter home that had a garage, I could put the gym in it. So you've got people that are now moving from rentals to buy so they can just keep their normal lifestyle that they had. You've got now a lot of people that aren't able to have the huge wedding that they were going to have. They can't fly in their relatives. And they're like, hey, well, if I've got this money, I might as well go spend that on a house. We've got 3 clients right now. Because of the postponed wedding, they're moving their house purchase up. So you've got money
wedding back.
Yep. And so, yeah, exactly. And so you've got people buying homes, with that money now. So you've got people sitting at home watching HGTV going, well, shoot, if I own my own home, I could have that all this time that I'm spending at home now. I could be working on a backyard project or, an addition or whatever I want to do around the house. It's a cool project. So you have those people who are like, hey, I'm done not having my house to be able to add sweat equity and labor and make my own, And so on top of it, because of the uncertainty, people are saying, hey, I want to be able to have control over something. If I own my own house, I at least have control over that. So COVID has had so many different avenues where it's put new demand into the housing market that just was never even there before. And it's very interesting to see. The knee-jerk reaction was everybody on CNN saying, oh my God, housing's going to drop. Real estate's going to get crushed. Well, you know what? Commercial real estate's, taking some licks. But you know what's not? Residential real estate, because there were other demands out there that they did not foresee. And Troy's going to get to number 3 here. Tell us the number 3. This was really, a symptom of the supply and demand.
Yeah, 3.8 million housing shortage. There's 3.8 million more qualified buyers than actually houses in the United States. Yep. And so that is, millennials are out there. They're younger and younger, and they're being educated on the home buying process. Again, I say this, I've said this in probably multiple lives. When I was in my mid-30s, early to mid-30s, I wasn't thinking about buying a house. Yes, it was on the bucket list, but I wasn't thinking about buying a house. I wasn't able to educate myself on the home buying process. At late 30s, I ended up buying my first home, and then I didn't even know the process. So I had to trust my real estate agent and my mortgage broker to tell me that I was getting the best deal on the home, and I was getting the best interest rate. I had no idea. To shop rates was insane. You had to walk into a bank and you had to go in.
What'd you get? What rate did you get?
Right question you had to ask to even get there. So today we're seeing that. At the 30, 34, 33-year-olds, they're all coming in. I mean, several of my clients are in their late 20s, and they're saying, "Hey, I want to be, have that wealth train begin younger, so it will actually, end up as I when I want to retire, not at 65." That my generation looks at. When I want to retire, I have this money that I can enjoy the rest of my life, and and I'm doing it younger, and I'll have more.
Yeah. So Freddie Mac came out beginning of the year and said there is a 3.8 million, unit shortage of housing in America, and that was at the beginning of the year. So we already had an undersupply, and so there were more buyers than there were homes. And it's just been exacerbated now that less people are actually listing their home. Inventory has even gone down from that, and the demand has gone up. So Troy, touched on, the millennial and stuff like that. What's interesting is last year, the average age of a first-time home buyer was 33, 34. That's what he's referencing. If you look at population growth and birth rate 33 to 34 years ago, and then start clipping forward for the next 4 years, that birth age rises for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
So that means where this first-time home buyer age has been for the last few years, it is going to have a growth. So we're going to see a new household formation growth over the next 4 years. On top of that, when you look at the building of new housing units, it is about 60 to 70% of what they were doing in 2005, 6, 7, 8. And so we're building less units, and the units we're building aren't affordable. We're not building single story, entry level, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 2-bedroom, 2-bath homes. We're just not building them because there's not enough margin in those homes for builders to make a profit. So they're building the bigger homes on, still postage stamp lots, because they can get higher margins by building that bigger home. So we're going to continue to see this housing shortage grow, this number grow as we get more new household formations, and just less to sell them. So
next two are kind of tied together. Equity is abundant, and in our guide, we go over some of the important numbers, like how many people actually outright own their home, how many have at least 50% equity, and then what's the average equity across the United States that people have in their home. So one of those numbers is $177,000 of equity. Plenty
awesome.
Plenty
that is awesome.
To have, right? And why is equity so big? Well, if we just rewind back to 2008. Equity was growing in American homes at a staggering rate, right? Staggering rate. So what did people do? What did the economists do? What did the president do? What did the mortgage industry do to actually utilize that equity? They allow people to pull cash out of their house, take seconds, and then utilize that money for Winnebagos or traveling or whatever. So was it their home was ATM?
It was an ATM. They just kept ringing that refi cash machine and buying depreciating assets.
They were, and then turned around, and when, again, as we talked about, the music stopped, when home values just keep going up and up and up and up and up forever, and when it hit that moment and everything started crashing down, well, all these banks, and the federal government and me and you, right? We took it hard because we had to pay that back. We had to pay all those loans back. Yet it was called bailouts, and all we heard back is bailout, bailout, bailout. It was one bank after the next. In fact, we see some of the news clippings of back then. Now some of those companies were just let to go, and others, they picked and chose what companies they bailed out.
Yep.
So that was what they learned. So today on number 5, it's a limited refi cash out programs. In fact, it's kind of interesting how, and we go in our guide here, we kind of tell you, well, there was about $300 billion taken out of equity back in 2007, 6, and 5. And then today we have under $100 billion. So we're under $100 billion. Where
We've
back
got
then
more,
it was 5
and
times.
we've got more equity now,
Right.
and we've taken out way less.
Right.
So a ratio of what we're pulling is out as an ATM from our house is way less. I mean, it's staggering as a percentage. What was it like? It was less than 10%. I think there was a ratio or something like that. Yeah. So it's just, we're in a completely different dynamic on how people are treating their homes.
Right.
And they're allowing that equity to grow, and they're trying to plant roots and have this as their long-term home.
You know, I always say this to people, and a lot of clients understand this. It's kind of a saying that I've said now for a long time. When you work and earn something, you covet it so much more than if it's given to you for free. So if you have the exact same thing, and I always remember going back to working at the grocery store, and we would sell 2-liter Coke, and then on certain weeks of 1 week out of every 4 months or a quarter, we would go buy one get one free. So we pumped the price up a little bit on the Coke 2-liter, and then you get a second one for free. And I don't know how many times people would look at that free Coke as, well, it's just free. It's just free. It doesn't mean anything, right? They didn't care.
Well, yeah, it's like you go back to high school, and you have a friend who works summers, gets himself a clunker car. He's out there waxing, a car that's got chipped and broken paint on it. That you're
given to him by his dad.
No, but then you have another guy who's got a new truck given to him by his dad, and he beats the crap out of the thing, takes no care of it because it was just given to him. Where the other guy who had to earn it. It was a clunker, but he's out there polishing and waxing that thing. It's not going to look any better, but he had that pride in ownership because he earned it. And that's where we're at with these housing, this housing market now. We have real buyers putting real money down who really want to live in this house. It's not pure speculation. They need to put a roof over their head, and they want to have that, that house, that home. So.
Yeah. The next one is forbearances. We kind of go back to the same thing here on foreclosures. Now we have a solution, a real solution if you're having trouble making payments, right? Again, back in 2006, 2007, 2008, we had no solutions. We just winged it, basically. Went from the savings and loan crash, which was basically everyone just stay in their home and we'll figure out how we're going to take it from you, to, all right, we're figuring how to take it from you, but we really want you to stay in it because it's staggering amount of people we're actually getting out of their homes and displacing them, to now we have a solution. And I think forbearances is the solution. I'm very happy that the federal government, Fannie and Freddie, which are the federal government controls those companies, they have a solution, and let's keep people in their homes. And of course, the last and not least is the refi boom. We are entering, and I know some of my very close friends in the mortgage industry, we're entering the last refi boom. I mean, the very last. Freddie Mac came out last week and said, for the first time ever in their 50 years of being a company that actually bought notes, for the first time, their average note that they were giving out now that was on the market was under 3%.
Yeah, 2.98.
Right.
So
first time ever.
The terrific twos are here.
Right. So where are we going to go? That's literally, we hit rock bottom. We literally hit rock bottom. I mean, we just don't see it anywhere. So if you're out there, refi smart, refi very, very smart. Don't add years to lower your payment. Let's keep your payment and get rid of years.
Yeah,
right?
drop those years.
That's kind of how, that's kind of the philosophy. So,
yep.
Hey guys, that is our chapter 1 of our Home Buyer's Guide. We have so many more chapters in here we want to go over. We're going to go over them as next few weeks. But hey, we want to make sure everyone gets a copy of this. Here are some of the chapters in the future, Ryan. Let's go over what's in our book.
All right. We got the boxing arena. 2 things in your corner. Cut me, Mick. We got mortgage rates and home prices. And what do we got after that? How technology is enabling the real estate process.
Very, very important. That's a great chapter.
Absolutely. And then you got buying a home. Do you know the lingo? So I'm pretty sure most of you know the lingo because real estate agents, we're horrible with acronyms. It's almost as bad as the government out there, probably because there's a lot of government involved in the industry. But yeah, there's a lot of acronyms, a lot of slang, industry terms. So we'll bring a lot of those to you as well. And then we got the power of having a real estate professional on your side. So very important. You want somebody who has the experience, who understands what's going on, and can walk you through this process so you know what you should be asking for, what you know isn't important, and how to get you to that finish line, as smooth as possible with the best deal possible. Then you got what you can do now if you want to buy a home. Which, other than
How
comment
do you start,
below,
Ryan? How do you start?
Yeah, comment below, contact a real estate agent. That's it. But we'll bring a lot more information on that.
We want to educate you on that process. I mean, obviously, you don't want to trust everybody that's out there, right? There's all different types of real estate agents and loan and lenders out there, but we want to walk you through that process of beginning that your journey for home ownership.
Yep. And then ready to make an offer. 4 tips for success. We'll break it down for you, what you need to know when you're making an offer. And then things to avoid after applying for a mortgage. So we talk about our horrible stories all the time. People buying a car, obviously getting laid off. Sometimes you can't, avoid that, but we'll break it all down to you, what to and not to do once you are in escrow, so you don't mess up that purchase because you get denied for the loan from something you did. So then we got 5 reasons to hire a real estate professional. So there's quite a few more than 5, but we're going to keep it simple for you guys and bring the 5 reasons to hire a real estate professional. And then that's it pretty much. That's our summer guide, things to consider when buying a home. So
right. This is our summer guide. We actually will put out a in-depth guide of every single real estate process. I mean,
Yep.
from going and looking for homes, the 5 things you need to know about when looking for homes, all the way through the mortgage process and the loan process, as well as escrow process. Hey, once I get my offer accepted, what are the steps, or what do I foresee that's going to happen, and I can successfully close a home during that time? I mean, from putting in your deposit all the way through the home inspection, appraisal. What do I do next after that? Do I continue to give all my information off to my mortgage lender? How do I get my full loan approval? What happens? What happens at that point? Boom! All that processes. We'll have a more in-depth guide that we're going to put out. It comes out once a year, and we'll definitely have that launched here in the next couple of weeks, actually. But I want before we end all this, Ryan, we have a few shout outs. You have a few shout outs over there, man?
Yeah, I just want to say what's up, Trung Lai. Well, I'd love to hear how your rental's doing. So got the tenants in there yet? Let me know if you need help getting them in, or contracts, rental lease agreements, run background, criminal. Love to help you out there. Hope that project's going well. So
I got Alex. How do I get a copy? Stay on here. We'll definitely get a copy out to you, Alex. Rebecca, very good information. Thank you very much. Elmas, is it better to place 10% down, use up to most of the savings, or play it safe and 5% down? If it's conventional, I would definitely put 5% down. For me, too. if I'm handling the mortgage payment itself, if everything feels comfortable, I want to put 5% down. You're going to have about 2% in closing costs on top of that. So it's about a 7% proposition. The 2 things that, besides that 7%, there's 2 other things that you're actually going to pull out of pocket while you're in escrow. Number 1, the appraisal, which is anywhere from $400 to $500. And then you'll have the home inspection report. So those 2, you also, on top of that, on top of your down payment and your closing costs, you'll have those 2 while you're in escrow. And those are the 2 risky gambles that you make.
That's a great point. But it's nice to have that cushion. Once you're a homeowner, you definitely want to make sure you got a little fund there for a rainy day. And then also, so if you do want a guide, go ahead, go to the House Heroes and comment with your Facebook username and or tag a friend, and we'll go ahead and send the instructions and download that guide, the link to you.
Right. A couple more shout outs here. Rebecca, what is needed to qualify for a loan modification after forbearance is over? So once you get your forbearance done, and there's timelines that are there. Right? Once it's finished, what I would do is, if I'm fully employed at that point, then I would go back to my servicer and ask about a refi. That's the first thing I would do. If I'm kind of stuck and I'm still maybe in somewhat of the situation, then I would absolutely begin that process of loan modification. What they're going to want to do is see all your assets and income that's coming in, even if it's, as simple as if I'm still unemployed, I get unemployment, but they want to see what your home is worth and all your other assets, and then you can begin that process. They're much more likely to give you a loan modification than back in 2008 and 2009. They want to keep you in that house. If you do have any further questions, anyone out there, or someone that might be going through a hardship like this, definitely hit the share button and we'll help them out. A couple more shout outs here, Ryan. Jay Libris.
What's up, Jay?
Yeah, how's it going, Jay? RJ, will appraisal help me? That's your...
Oh, yeah. No, not at all. So it's just a waste of money for you. When you're buying something cash, you don't need an appraisal.
Oh, is he buying cash? Okay.
Yeah. There's no need.
So actually, Jay, RJ, instead of getting an appraisal, what you want to do is you want to ask your professional real estate agent to give you what's called a CMA, or a market analysis of your home, and then at that point you'll definitely understand what's we ran comps before we bought it.
There you go. So let's step it back. So the benefit of an appraisal, the appraisal is purely to protect the lender. That's all it is. And an appraisal is an opinion of value on a given date by that appraiser, which most of the time I don't agree with. So all that it's there for, though, is to protect the lender. So if you're doing a cash purchase, it doesn't matter. That's when you need to rely on your agent, look at comps, look at what's important to you and if the property is worth it. The lender just wants to make sure that $1.25 million home that Troy and I bought together, we don't go ahead and sell it to you, RJ, for $5 million, and we're going to go split the $3.7 million
amongst
in Tahiti amongst us three for the next 10 years. Let that home foreclose on, and we're out partying for the next 10 years in Tahiti. So that's why it's to protect them from fraud. Is really what it comes down to. They want to know that if the worst case happens and they have to foreclose on it, is this home worth what they're lending on it right now? So
Colleen, Angel, again, thank you everybody out there for tuning in tonight. We're real excited to launch our home buyer's guide. And if you want a copy, just go ahead and put your name in there, and we'll definitely have our staff within the next 24 hours send you the link directly to that copy. And give us any comments that you'd like, that you have. We're more than happy to talk to you about it if you have any questions, anything like that.
Yep. No, thank you guys. As always, we love comments, questions. It was funny because I'm just thinking back now to when RJ was here. I'm like, hey, he's like, I watch you. And I'm like, we need to ask him our questions. So here he is. So I appreciate that, RJ. Also, you guys, if you've got any friends who you think can benefit from this, for the guide as we're rolling it out, either the seller's guide or the buyer's guide, please like and share this with them. Please go on and follow us on YouTube. All of the guide, these videos, if you miss a week for some reason, which, we might give you a hard time, but if you miss a week, you can go back on YouTube and it'll be there. It'll also be on Facebook, but I know our YouTube channel is a little bit, easier to navigate for older content. So please go on and subscribe to our YouTube channel, so we can make sure we're bringing more and more content over there as well. So other than that, just want to say thank you guys. Happy Tuesday to you, and peace and God bless.
Be safe. Take care.